That's probably not here. Well, hello everyone. We're welcome to Fixing Our Laptops podcast starring me and Chris.
There we go. All right.
In the nick of time. In the nick
Just in
of
time.
time. Hi everybody. I am Jarrod Albrecht, the art sale artist, and I want to welcome you to another Best Under 5. I am joined by my friend Black Belt Chris. How are we today, Black Belt Chris?
I am doing good.
Awesome. Awesome and awesome.
Pull up my notes on this show.
Oh, he's got notes. He's a better person than me.
Oh,
I'll say hello to the people who are. We already got a few watchers yet. Come say hi in the chat. There's Matt Paso. Hello, Matt. Yes, this must be a first Sunday because here we are at Best Under 5, and today we're going to be talking about. I even brought in a picture. It's going to be great on the audio version. Fear. I know I could even fix our camera positions. Like, oh, I almost had it. There we go. We're going to be talking about The Fear from 1995, which was a good year. It was a good year. It was directed by Vincent Robert, and it stars Eddie Bowes, Heather Medway.
Bowes, I'm not sure.
Bowes? Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Ann Turkle, Vince Edwards, Darren Heems, Anna Karen. There's a whole slew of people that stars. I tell you who also guest stars in it is Mr. Wes Craven. I was surprised to see him. I'm sure we'll get to that. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about Best Under 5, Danny. And for those of you, maybe this is the first time listening, Best Under 5 means this is a movie that has less than a 4.9 or lower on IMDB, which I actually don't have pulled up right now. I want to say this one was like a 3.8, 3.9. You got that?
3.9.
3.9 out of 10 on IMDb. The Fear, 1995. As usual, I guess we'll just start with sort of our history around The Fear. We'll start with you this time, Chris. How did you first discover it? Did you watch it for the show? I should mention up front, this is brought to us by one of our listeners, guy in the chat, Matt Paso, was his suggestion. So thank you, Matt. And I want to welcome you, Kathy. But back to you, Chris. How did you discover this one?
Through this show, after we did our initial show there, one of the guys suggested, it was Matt that suggested it. And so I went out and I found it on Tubi and watched it. And then I rewatched it again for this episode and did a little bit of a digging to find some trivia or some facts behind it. And there ain't much.
Well, at least one of us did some work behind the scenes. So thank goodness it was you, Chris. I'm so glad that you do that. For me, it's kind of the same way. You know, Matt suggested it. And, in our early episodes, we just kind of picked what we were going to do for the first one. I think I just picked, was it Fangs? Fangs was kind of fun. And then you picked Jaws 3. I don't remember if that was a suggestion or if that was just like sort of your initial pick. I can't remember.
I don't remember. I think we tossed out two of that and this as an option, and I went with Jaws 3 since it was Shark Week, Shark Week on Discovery Channel and all that. It just ended. So well, let's go with sharks.
Let's go with shark. Yeah, that was just released a couple days ago in podcast form, and so I re-listened to it while I was jogging, and I was one of those ones where I was just so happy. I was like, hey, we had a lot of fun. That was a good show. So hopefully we'll do that again tonight. So yeah, this was brought to us by Matt, and we're always listening, folks, on the social medias at LONGBOX CRUSADE. You can always hit us up with suggestions. We're sometimes going to straight up ask for them because this half the fun is just discovering these best under 5. Just I don't know if Matt was trolling us on this one or he's in the chat. So Matt, you feel free to tell us your thoughts in the chat.
Yes, because I have many thoughts about this one.
I have a few. This is definitely an interesting film. So I guess, you know what the heck with it. This is what we do. Let's just get into talking about The Fear, 1995. I'll tell you what, Chris, you've done some research. You can either start with the trivia facts you've got or some of your gut feelings about it. Just what comes to mind? What is the first thing that comes to mind when you think of The Fear from 1995?
When you said you were watching it, and when I said, and then I went back and rewatched it, you look at the poster, and I was like, at first I wasn't sure what the heck it was about, and I'm thinking, wait, why is this guy? He looks like he's coated in shellac,
Yeah.
And then I come to find out, well, he's wood, so it's appropriate.
I was like, it's either wood or like old bacon. It's hard to say, but it
Yes,
was
yes,
wood.
wood
It was
bacon.
wood.
Yes,
Go
it
with your
was wood.
first
It was
instinct.
wood. And this and my suspicions were confirmed when I went and started digging around and found some stuff on Wikipedia about it. This was a straight to DVD release in the mid '90s. Shocker.
Yeah, I did not remember
No,
it coming through the theater system.
you know, and the only person in this movie that I recognized, and I didn't know her by name, I had to look her up. It was Ann Turkle, Leslie, the redhead with the long straight hair in this movie. And then I finally realized where I recognized her from, which was a lot of TV shows: Riptide, The Fall Guy, Murder She Wrote, The Love Boat, uh, Fantasy Island, Night Court,
Yeah, yeah, and I
and
recognized her as well, so we have that in common. Of course, Wes Craven. I recognize him
yeah,
as
yeah.
well.
Well, and Wes Craven, yes, and then Vince Edwards, Uncle Pete. He has a very long filmography, but everybody else is pretty short and no names or somewhat no names. One guy, our Rastafarian dude, Troy, he uh, he had a stint on Sons of Anarchy.
So while we're talking about this, I got this is one of the first things that I had in my quote unquote notes, my mental notes. I'm not good like Chris. I just think of things. When they said that the Ann Turkle character, her name was Leslie in the movie. They said Leslie is Troy, and he's the white Rastafarian. She said that Leslie is Troy's sister.
Sister, yes.
I jokingly said, "What are they, 20 years apart?" And then I said it as a joke just because I thought she looked a good bit older than him. But I actually did the research, and I think she was 48 when filming, 49 when it came out.
Oh, wow.
She was supposed to be the sister of the college kid.
Well, I mean, apparently, I mean, as you get into the movie, and they start confronting their fears, her fear was she didn't want to get old, and um, supposedly they were foster kids,
Yeah, like
and,
both adopted or
and
fostered. Yeah.
they're both adopted, and then. I mean, I watched the scene like 2 or 3 times over when they started talking about that, and I'm like, wait a minute, did she just say that he's her son now? Like, wait, what is going on here?
I did. You don't look to me for the answers. This movie's get a little all over the place, but I will say this before we run off Matt, and I'm going to read Matt from the chat since he's here. He said, I legit loved it in high school, but I don't know why. I do love psychology, so maybe that's why. I don't think it held up to my nostalgia glasses. And then he made a joke. He said, the only way this came to theaters is someone had it in their bag after stopping at the mom and pop video store.
He's not wrong.
Yeah, he's definitely inspired me to check out some movies that, I loved in high school and see if we could bring them onto the show.
Yeah.
But I get the appeal. I guess we should just tell the folks, and we didn't have to tell the folks at home what Jaws 3 was really about.
No, we didn't.
With the fear, we kind of need to. So you've already figured it out, listening audience, that this is a group of college kids. One of them, Richard, he's sort of into fear and understanding fear and psychology. It starts out very much like, it reminded me of the remake of The Haunting from like 98, 99. Okay. And Liam Neeson is sort of bringing people in to test fears and things like that. And basically Richard's doing this with all of his friends.
Yeah. They're all supposed to confront their fears. It's like his thesis. I
yes.
think.
Again, very similar to Liam Neeson version of The Haunting.
And I thought that, for a guy doing his thesis, he's really not doing a good job. his control factors. He's just like, I'm just going to invite my friends out to the cabin.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't see a lot of professional notes or video equipment or recording.
We're not going to do any pre-screening here.
Yeah. Basically, he brought like all of his friends who basically I'm going to use the word deteriorates. And we know on the show that I'm a bit more positive lens guy than Chris. Is a little harder on movies than I am. But I will say, I felt like it kind of deteriorated into like a 90210 episode where everybody caught feelings for everybody else. And to me, that really bogged
Yes.
down a strong premise.
Yeah, this movie, it had potential.
A
It
lot.
had some
Yes.
potential, but it never came to fruition. And I think that's one of my problems with this, and I think and this movie and a lot of B grade stuff that scores below a 5 on IMDb in the late mid to late 90s, and as we move forward, because and I'll touch on that later as to why I think that.
Oh, I look forward to this. I agree with you though. I think ton of potential. And then you have, we haven't even really talked about the wooden man in the room, which is this sort of like life size wooden doll that is creepy as all get out. It looks like it might be alive. And of course, this is a horror movie, so you're going to have to deal with that at some point.
Yes.
This is one of, and put a big plus column for Jarrod on this one, because we've done a fair amount of dragging this movie, and I'm sure we're going to drag it a little more. But one of the things I liked about it was what a great prop. Like, what a great thing to build your horror movie around. Now, did they get the most out of it? That's debatable. But what a good looking horror film prop.
Yeah, they did a good job with, I think, doing the wooden golem, and they did do a sequel to this, and the the Morty in the second one doesn't look anywhere near as good.
Oh, that is unfortunate.
He he doesn't move around like, he doesn't have that stiff movement as he moves. This guy, I mean, he's running around like the T-1000 from Terminator 2.
Okay.
Whereas opposed to this guy, I mean, he's got the stiff-legged movements at, like, he's can't move real well.
I see. I have not dabbled into the sequel, and Matt chimes in.
You don't want to.
Okay, so avoid at all costs. I got you.
Yes.
Matt chimes in with the chat and says he likes the concept of Morty, which is the wooden doll. He said it felt very Full Moon Productions, and I have to agree with you there. This whole movie felt like it would fit nicely into a full moon, which is, some people say, oh, that's B grade horror films, but that's sort of like the beauty of full moon. Is
what they do.
That's what they do, and that's what you want. So yeah, I think this fits in pretty well. I've got another plus on mine that I'll just toss out there while we're in a good mood about the fear. I loved how they leaned into the what was at the time sort of blossoming hip hop culture. Almost the whole soundtrack is like it's like 90s rap and hip hop, and it's kind of obscure. It's like not tunes you would remember. No, so much so that I was paying attention. I was like, these are kind of fun, and so I looked up if you could get the soundtrack to this movie, and you can. It's one of those ones it's rare enough where it still commands a pretty good price. Like the best deal I saw on it was about $15. Anywhere between $15 and $30. So if you want to get into the niche, into like some kind of cool rapid hip hop tunes that you probably don't remember from the 90s, but are still kind of neat and tied to this movie, I would certainly recommend it. But on the flip side of that, a lot of the rap and hip hop tunes I thought were a little overly aggressive for the atmospheres they were using. Like some of the lyrics were pretty hard and edgy for what they were using it for and the scenes that they were in. So on the one hand, I thought it was really kind of neat and creative, and it was this neat sound that I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I hadn't heard that before. But on the other hand, didn't always fit the film the best. So that's where I'm at on the soundtrack.
Yeah, that was I was not a huge rap fan in the 90s, but I had to look up some of them, who they were. I'm like, wait, that was Insane Clown Posse?
Oh, were they on this one?
Apparently they were. Yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't notice.
I found I think it was no, I remember it was an Amazon review. Some guy was listing off all the artists that were on there, and I could have swore he hit Insane Clown Posse in there. And I'm like, wait, they were? I mean, like, I know some ICP, but they've got a fairly distinct sound, but I didn't pick it out.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I saw that the $15 one on eBay was new and sealed, and
New and sealed.
I was like, and all the other ones are like $30, and for some that weren't even, sealed. And I was like, I might have to order this. I'm still trying to convince myself maybe to order it or not. I haven't decided yet. Because it's just wacky enough, and I guess it's going to lead me to another big plus for this movie. Is it has the same cover art with the wooden face and the fear in that font and everything. And I got to say, if I was at the VHS store, because that's how it worked back in the day, kids. This was straight to video, so you'd see this on the shelf at the VHS store. And you would just kind of get a feel for things based off their cover art. And I got to say, this one's pretty decent. What are your thoughts on the cover art, Chris?
I like it. Well, that's when I saw it. I thought, okay, what is this? I'm intrigued by the poster. The what was showed up on Tubi. I'm like, okay, this is interesting because I wasn't sure what the guy was supposed to be. Like why does he look like this? And then as I read the synopsis, I'm like, oh, he's wood. Okay,
Clearly carved from maple fudge.
yeah.
And then you got like, why is there a wooden dude? Which I've seen the movie, and I still don't know the answer to why they had a life-size wooden dude.
It's just it. See that, and that's where I think this movie falls down. Is there is no real good explanation for what the deal is with Morty. I mean, yeah, Rich says something about it's like, oh yeah, he stood outside my grandfather's general store. He was carved by an Indian. He said to bring good luck or whatever it was to the store. I'm like, okay, but that doesn't really play into why he's coming to life and going on a murderous rampage.
Right, yeah. It felt,
and don't even get me started on the whole druid scene at the druid scene, whatever you want to call it, at the very beginning of the movie. I mean, that is never explained at all.
like, he's just having this dream, and they kept saying, I was like, are they saying diamond trek? Are they saying diametric?
Diametric.
And that ends up being part of it. Like they had to figure out kind of a word puzzle, and that was okay. I just, especially since we're talking about Morty, he's such a good prop, and they built a good concept around this movie. But at the end of the day, I feel like it got distracted with like all the inner relationship. Oh, I've always had a thing for you. Oh, I've always had a thing for you, and I really felt like that bogged down a real decent idea in a real decent direction. I think it got bogged down in a bit of 90210ism.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I kind of thought the same thing. I figured they probably could have chopped 15 to 20 minutes from this movie, made Morty more prominent in the film, and gotten rid of all it's like everybody's got the hots for everybody else, and this would have been much better.
It's true. They kept sort of the underlying additional mystery, because you already have the mystery of what is Morty, what is his deal, which is never really fully explained, which you don't have to do in a horror movie, and that's fine. Yeah. But they also dragged the mystery of who the campus rapist was.
Yeah.
Through the whole thing, which was okay, whatever. And I guess it's revealed that it's Troy.
Yeah.
Spoilers, people. Ha, we got you. Right. But like at the very beginning, the cops are like, they're interviewing Troy. They're like, oh, there's another, where were you last night? He's like, I was shooting pool down at, Gary's pool hall or wherever. And they're like, we'll check that out. And I'm like, did they ever? Because he apparently was guilty the whole time. That was weird. Anyways, the last big item I have in my plus column, we kind of mentioned it already, is Wes Craven. It was cool to see him in an acting role. Clearly they got him for like a day to bookend the movie. Definitely.
Yeah, they filmed the beginning and the end of this movie in one day, and then Wes was like, see ya, I'm done.
Yeah. He's like buddies with Eddie Bowes or somebody. He was probably buddies with him, took care of my man.
I'm guessing the director.
Yeah, probably.
The director called in a favor for some reason.
I mean, that's a pretty good favor, especially in '95.
Yeah.
I mean,
yes.
Wes Craven's kind of sitting on top of the world, especially
at the top of his game. Yeah.
So what else you got, man? I've kind of dropped. I did my Jarrod thing where we do a show on the network called Pop Culture Podcast. That's essentially what I did here. I picked out a lot of my favorite things, and And so I want to kick it over to you, Chris. With if you have anything that you liked, or is it time to take an axe to the woodman here? What do you want to do?
There is there is not much I liked about this one. I mean, I like bad movies, but man, I mean, we'll just say it was a movie. That's what it's got going
I've
for it.
seen much worse. I can say
Yes.
that.
Oh, yes, I have definitely seen much worse. I mean, this does not rank at the bottom of the barrel, but and it is not. It's not up there with the best of the bad movies I've ever seen. Yeah, it, like I said, it had some potential, but I think it was wasted. It was seriously wasted,
Yeah.
because the scenes that had Morty in them were good, with the exception of when he popped out of the hot tub, because like, you know, if you don't realize that thing's in the hot tub, you got bigger problems.
It's a giant wooden doll, man.
And how deep is that hot tub? Because he literally comes popping out of that thing like a cork.
I did kind of laugh. I think it was meant for you to go, oh, but I was like,
Yeah, I laughed. Oh yeah, I laughed. I laughed hard. I laughed hard at that. So maybe that was the bright spot.
yeah. I mean, yeah. You can always get enjoyment. That doesn't always have to be the
Yes,
way they
yes.
intended you.
I liked how I liked the setup. They're all at the cabin, then they start introducing all their, what they're afraid of. And like, okay, well, all right, here's some really bad foreshadowing. Yeah, we all know how they're gonna die. It's just a question of when. But
Yeah.
I like them, basically getting it out there. It's like, hey, this is what I'm afraid of. I was hoping for something a little deeper, but it's a horror movie. It's a mid-90s horror movie, low budget horror movie. What are you expecting?
Yeah, they did have to play within their budget. And you did
Hmm.
remind me of one other thing too, because they also included the mystery, and I'm using heavy air quotes, mystery about because one of those central plot points is that our main character, Richard, has this memory of like
Hmm.
basically sort of destroying his family because he ratted on his mom. She was cheating on his dad, and he
Yeah.
like ratted her out, right? And like in his memory, the only thing he remembers is like this tattoo of the guy she was cheating with, the roses. And like the only other age appropriate dude in the movie ends up being the guy. I was like, well, yeah, we all knew it was him. There's literally no other person it could have been on your cast. So not a ton of mystery involved in that one.
No, no, no. I kept waiting for, okay, when's the horror gonna start? This is obviously
Right.
trying to be a psychological horror, but
Right.
where's it coming in? Because I'm not getting it.
Yeah, again, I think they thinned it out a little too much by adding the love octog. It's usually love triangle, but love
Triangle, yeah.
octagon, love.
Octagon, I think,
I
yes.
don't know, but like,
Yes.
yeah, it did weigh it down a little bit. Anyway, it was back to you. You were talking about additional thoughts you might have.
Yeah. Well, and so I've mentioned a few things, but remember when I said, about this is my problem with low budget 90s horror movies. You know, back in the 80s, you had to shop a movie around, and it took a bit to get something like Chopping Mall or Death Stalker or whatever on film. They're objectively not great movies, but they are just stupid fun to watch.
Especially Chopping Mall.
Yes, yes. Oh, I love that movie.
So good.
And it took some effort to get them on film, and most of the people that were in those movies, they had some sort of career going. But then you move into the mid 90s, and that's when, the internet starts to skyrocket. Um, you're just camcorders are easy to get. And I think, what you have starting at that point is everybody and their brothers wanting to try to make a movie. And it's fairly easy to do. So this is a weird thing to say, but the quality of your bad movies goes down.
No, I understand what you're saying. There became a system, especially as we get into the later 80s and into the 90s, basically built around going straight to the video store. Like That's something lost to time to maybe some of our younger
Mhm.
listeners. Like the video stores were so ubiquitous and prevalent that if you just got it on tape and got it distributed to stores, there was a whole system for that.
Mhm.
There was movies that they knew darn well were never going to get in the theater, but yet they had a process to get them in. And I mentioned it earlier, the better your box art, the better the chances that people would be watching your film. Now, I do want to say that I don't want to give listeners the wrong impression, because you mentioned sort of the camcorder era. It's like this, all this is still pretty professionally done. Like
Mhm.
it doesn't look like it's shot on a camcorder.
No,
It's
no.
got decent sound and all that stuff. So it has a professional veneer to it.
Yes,
But
it's got that
yes,
professional look to it.
yeah. So yeah, I the phrase I'll just keep coming back to, and you may have more notes here, but the phrase I'm just gonna keep going back to
Hmm.
is great concept, just it kind of lost its way. And
Yeah,
that's what you
yeah,
kept alluding to
yep,
as well.
same thing. There's not much else to talk about. I mean, to say about it. It was a good concept, but it to me, it fell flat. There was potential there. They could have trimmed some things out, made it better. Even with what they had on film, could have made it better, but they didn't, and it was kind of a jumbled mess to me.
Yeah, I
With all the, so and so is trying to hit on this person's trying to hit on this person, and I mean, because Rich and was it Ashley? They're supposed their fiance, they're engaged,
right.
and yeah, and then they're with these people in a cabin for less than a day, and it's like they're already starting to you know hit on somebody else is hitting on them, and they're like, oh well, I don't know, maybe
Yeah, I know, right?
maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't. It's like, really, you're having second
Absolutely.
thoughts already after knowing somebody for 10 hours?
Exactly. Um, as it kind of feels like we're wrapping up here, I do want to give a shout out to Eric Weiss, or he might pronounce it Weiss. He was Morty, and that must have been a heck of a time getting in the makeup for that.
I give him props. I give him a lot of props for how he played it, because that's not an easy thing to do. And it looked this suit was more convincing than what was in the second one. And I don't know what the heck they had to do to his face for that makeup, if that's a latex
Yeah,
mask or what the deal is. But there's some serious work put into his look and his costume. I will give the movie that they did a good job with him.
yeah, such a good job that I kind of, like you, are wondering down to the detail, like how they do that, because his eyes always, you can tell that's the actor's eyes. They're real
Yes,
human eyes,
yes.
which is what makes Morty so creepy. Is he's clearly this wooden doll, but his eyes look so alive. So I'm
Mhm.
like you, how close did the latex get to his actual eyeball openings? Is that sort of a wooden mask with some sort of transit, whatever it is? It looks really good.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
did a good job.
I mean, being a woodworker myself, I look at that and I'm like, yeah, that looks like a chunk of wood.
Yeah, it's impressive work. So I want to make sure I got to that. So anything left in the tank, Chris? I know you looked at some trivia. Did it all come up, or did you have anything else?
It all came up. Except for the fact that, yeah, there wasn't much. Except for the fact that there was a sequel. I stumbled onto that in IMDb, and I just kind of back in my head, I was like, they made a sequel out of this? Oh my God.
And you watched it?
I watched it. I was a
Oh,
glutton for punishment. This was a 3.9. The sequel was a 3.2.
oh, really? It sounds like they shouldn't be that
Yes.
close, though. It sounds to me like this is like clearly better than the sequel, but I haven't seen it. This is
Oh,
your
it
opinion.
is. It is. I thought it was clearly better in the sequel. I mean, the second one is basically a rehash of the first one, but except just different characters.
Oh,
You know,
okay, okay.
now instead of the main character seeing the main character still sees his mother killed, but it is still a mother father thing. The the main character's mother was killed by his father, who was a serial killer, and he
Oh,
and he's afraid that he will turn out the same way.
uh, again, that sounds like a fascinating principle, but again, you've seen it. It sounds
It
like it gets
is.
lost in the mix
It's
again.
like I said, it had potential, but they blew it, because now all of a sudden Morty can teleport from place to place, and he talks.
Okay.
and he had some really bad one-liners.
Oh, now I kind of want to see it. Like, it's just cheesy enough to be fun, but
He didn't have many lines, but the lines he had were awful. Even by dad joke standards, they were awful.
Wow. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger on the set of Batman and Robin was just like, no, these lines are terrible. Right. All right. I did that thing because when I watch my movies on Plex, it scrapes from other sites. It only pulled in on Plex. It only pulled in one Rotten Tomatoes review, but
oh, really?
I thought it was interesting enough to bring to the show today. I'll put it on the screen and I'll read it for the listening audience. It says the fear doesn't come together with the psychological power that Ford intends, yet it connects to it in a mild way, showing more success with ideas than execution. And that's from Brian Orndorff from Blu-ray.com. And I thought that was germane because it's almost exactly what we've been saying. Yeah, dude was basically like, it doesn't come together like they wanted to, but it has more success with its idea than its execution. And I think that's exactly what we've been saying.
Yep.
You had a great idea. You had a great prop or actor as a prop, Morty. You had Morty was a great idea, a fun 1990s hip hop soundtrack, a good box art design, but it got a little bit lost in the way when I think the writer just put a bit too much emphasis on this the weird love quadrilateral angle thing that was going on. Oh my goodness. So any other final thoughts, Chris?
No.
Yeah, I think we've got it. I think we do.
I think we've got them all.
So I just for facts upon facts upon facts, I am going right now to the Fear 1995's IMDb page just to make sure the numbers didn't change overnight like the stock market. And it is currently sitting at a 3.9 out of 10. I can tell you it has an audience score of 26% on Rotten Tomatoes. So they're basically saying it's a 2.6.
2.6.
And like I said, IMDb's got a 3.9. So it's time to answer the question we answer at the end of every episode. Higher, lower, or accurate? And you can go first, Chris.
Oh, I'm going to say lower.
I had a feeling you were going to. What do you got? I'll let you finish.
I was definitely not going higher. And I'm like, this still isn't at 3.9. I mean, this is, and I'm not going to knock it that much, but it's definitely not close to 4. It's definitely not close to 4. I would give it I'd rate it about where the sequel is, a 3.2.
Okay. So you got it. As we've established long ago, I'm much more forgiving. I was going to say I've watched a lot more worse movies than Chris, but I don't know if that's true. Chris has watched a lot of them.
I have watched, what was it? Santa and the Ice Cream Bunny.
Yeah, that's
without the riff tracks, man.
Okay. I will never question you again. Although you do need to watch Rollerblades. Actually, don't watch Rollerblade 7. It might be the worst movie I've ever seen. All right, but
I remember you saying something about that.
Yeah, Rollerblade 7 is oof. But anyway, back to the Fear, and it's 3.9 out of 10. I like the soundtrack. I liked the wooden Morty doll / actor. As per our usual, I'm going to bump it up, but not like I usually do. Usually I'm like, oh, this is a 6 or a 7. I will put this one at a 4.5. I think it's to me, a 4.5 movie is something that you're like, oh, it's a rainy Sunday afternoon. And I just stopped by the Goodwill yesterday and picked up a VHS player and this Fear movie on VHS. Yeah, hook it up, pop it in, pop some popcorn, watch the movie, relive the vibe of the 90s, which, this was suggested to us by Matt, who is in the chat.
This is very much a 90s movie.
Yeah, and I could totally get being a teenager in the 90s. Like I feel like Matt was. I don't know, Matt, your age for sure, but it feels like you might have mentioned that. But anyway, a teenager would go to the video store, pick this up on VHS, take it home, pop it in, and go, this is something unique.
Yep.
In a world that was really filled with Friday the 13th and Halloweens and all that kind of stuff, I can see where this would be a fun diversion.
Something different.
Yeah. And let's see. Matt actually mentioned in the chat, he said, I would give it a 4 or 4.5, and I don't know if I could go over 5. And I agree. And Matt, I'm glad you brought it, though. That's kind of the whole point of Best Under 5 is to get us exposed to these movies that they're not terrible. You know, they're would I say this is a good movie? No, I'd say this is a decent movie. It's decent. You know, it's something you want when you want a different flavor.
Yeah.
Hey, Kathy just mentioned liking.
I've never heard of that. Now I'm going to go look that up.
There we go. My internet loves to be weird. AU Kathy just mentioned liking Colony in the chat at a 1.0. Oh, sorry for the interruption in audio there. If we had one, my internet likes to pretend I'm on Wi-Fi for about half a second every once in a while. Oh, and Matt is almost exactly my age. He just admitted to graduating in 1996. I graduated in 95.
Yeah, okay. I graduated in 92,
so old. That's why you're so angry all the time.
Yes. I like to say there's a lot of times where I channel my old old man Dana Carvey from Saturday Night Live.
I'm an old man. I love it. So there you have it, folks. The Fear, 1995, 3.9. So it falls into our Best Under 5 requirements being a 4.9 or lower. Brought to you by listener and Crusaders Club member Matt Poss.
Kathy's got us beat.
That's why I started laughing. I saw it in the chat. She said she graduated in 1989. She must be really angry. She must hate this movie. Kathy's a sweet. And I want to thank Kathy and Matt and for stopping by and say hey in the chat. We've had 40 some odd people stop by and watch. And I want to thank those folks for popping in. You can always say hello in the chat. We got really nice people in the chat here at Longbox Crusade. Matt just said, thank you guys for watching this. Hey, thank you for suggesting it. And we look forward to more suggestions because that's the fun of this. You know, I gave this thing basically what did I give it? A 4, almost 5, somewhere in there, 4 to 5. And
Chris, like 4.5, I think.
Yeah, 4.5.
We pretty much canceled each other out.
Yeah. So it ended up right where it was. It ended up right back in the 3.9, right? So, you know, I just want to stress to folks that, you know, even if we do bring something a little lower or say it's accurate or whatever, it's still fun to do this. It's fun to do this. So keep dropping the suggestions, and you can do that at Longbox Crusade on X, Facebook, or Instagram. It's all at Longbox Crusade. We are also on YouTube as Longbox Crusade. So if you're watching with us here on YouTube or watching YouTube replay of the live stream, put the comment in there. We will read it. We are looking for more suggestions, so always hit us up, and we'll definitely be interested. We already have a suggestion now. Kathy is suggesting Grease 2.
Grease 2. Where does that? What's the rating on that?
I'm about to find out while you tell people where they can find you if they want to talk to you more about this kind of stuff. You can find me on X at Black Belt X21, where I throw up random musings about 70s, 80s, and 90s pop culture, music, and movies. And can confirm
what I'm watching.
Can confirm.
If you're a fan of chips, you want to follow me.
You were watching something the other night that I was like, oh, that's cool. And I know I at least liked it. If I didn't comment, now I can't remember what it was. Anyway, I don't remember what it was. Great episode information from Jarrod there. I liked something that Chris posted. So everybody read that.
Yes. Now I'm gonna have to go back and remember what it was.
I did too. I was like, I just remember seeing something going, oh yeah, that was a good one. But anyways, Grease 2, by the way, has a 4.6. So Kathy may have gotten us into some trouble on that. We may have to watch our first musical here on
my wife will sit down and watch that one with me. She'll be shocked. She's like, a movie on your podcast that I'll actually watch.
You're like, who knew, right? So there you have it. So
I didn't regret watching this. You know, I mean, like I said, I've seen much worse. I'm glad I saw it, but it was interesting for what it was.
I think that is a great phrase. We haven't yet. This is only episode 3. We haven't regretted watching anything. And I mean, I've seen, like you said, we've both seen Santa and the Ice Cream Bunny. And that is the one that just does a terrible, terrible movie. And I don't regret it, though, because it's part of it's a badge of honor to say that you watched it.
Yes. That and Santa Claus Conquers the Martians.
Yeah, seen that one, too. But anyways, If you want to, again, suggest stuff, you know where to find us. I already told you about Longbox Crusade, and I am at Yard Sale Artist on X, Facebook, and Instagram is all at Yard Sale Artist. We don't have an outro catchphrase just yet. We'll just keep workshopping that.
We're gonna work on that. Yeah.
Until next time, generic outro catchphrase. Thanks again, everybody, for being here, and we will hit you with another one of these. I think we have one on the schedule for the first Sunday of next month, but Chris and I will chat behind the scenes and make that. Yeah. We'd love to go monthly, but occasionally that first Sunday doesn't work out. But stay tuned. We intend to be here the first Sunday of next month. We'll get back to you. Of course, we'll make announcements on the Longbox social media. So we'll see you then.
All right.